on. There I am. There you are. Hello, hello, hello. I am 2 minutes late. That's okay. I decided to shower for everybody. So there is stuff going on in my garden that is just, it's about, let's say about 70% of it was out of my control. And 30% of it was kind of me in some ways. Or whatever, life. But it's taking hours for me to figure out issues. That's why I believe anyone who watches or doesn't watch, go to Milky Way Soul Tribe channel. Beloved Robert over there does like gardening shows occasionally, and I approached him with like, hey, maybe in July we should do a follow-up one. That I'm usually on those with them about things that come up. I'm dealing with new bugs I've never seen. I'm dealing with just a lot of stuff that, hey, a follow-up one is always good. So Robert, if you're listening, that is a good idea. Maybe, we got to get through the holiday. Speaking of the holiday, my lovely people, here in America, our 4th of July, woo! I'm a big fan of 4th of July, folks. Such great times growing up. I'm going to be working through this week, and I'll do my toth on Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Emerald Tablets revealed, but I will not be here next Sunday. I won't. I don't know if I'm going to barbecue that day or, well, I don't know what I'm doing yet, but I usually always barbecue. You got to barbecue on the 4th, even if it's like 1,000,000 degrees outside. It's the thing that we do here in America. But also, the fireworks in my neighborhood, they already started yesterday. Let's just say that. Let's just say that. That week, it'll probably be like Wednesday to Wednesday. So I'm hoping Friday morning when I air, there won't be fireworks at 11 in the morning. That's why I tend to do things in the morning as well. Let's see. I'm going to do my spiel, my marketing spiel. If anyone is listening and you want to get onto the Stars of the Morning Light email, please go to the website, fill it out. It's good to stay in touch because the emails are different than this, guys. I mean, I have a blog there. I have other little things that I do. You'll learn about many of the classes. I mean, I don't always advertise what I'm doing with all my other stuff here because, I just start talking. I just do my thing. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, is the last chance for anyone to book for tonight's Shadow Work Part 1. People requested, so I did it. My big shadow work workshops that are normally, like big events, at least 2 or 3 very long workshops. I have broken it down into 5 parts. Easy peasy, meet me at a Zoom, and for about 3 hours. So part 1 is tonight. I would say if you don't take part 1, where is the foundation, you can't really jump into part 2 and 3. Definitely not part 4 and 5. I mean, that's a definite. So think about it. I know a lot of the responses I get is people know they need it, but they're scared. And I get that. I truly, truly get that. But when we look at our shadow self, it's not just looking at all the ucky, all the bad, and relieving ourselves from definitely shame, definitely resentments. It's not just doing that. It's also looking at all these parts of us, and we're going to kind of talk about today, that we might think are broken, but they're really not. Or parts like we're going to be spending time, I'm going to be reviewing everybody's birth charts during it. You know, your zodiac stuff going on. Not vastly in depth, but enough for us to go over. And we're going to be doing a lot of stuff, guys. Releasing a lot of fear. Understanding fear. Understanding inner child work. Understanding resentments. Understanding the power of forgiveness. So it's really about one class a month. I put it at 2 separate times each month, but part 1, this is the last chance tonight. Okay. So sign up. It's only $28, guys. I mean, I'm trying to, I care so much about helping. We also, it's a lot of acceptance as to who we are. You know, if we don't look at our shadow, if we don't accept aspects of our shadow, how can we fully accept all the light? The most powerful ones are able to accept it, work with it, understand it, which then makes their light and their power even stronger because they know how to work with themselves and a whole bunch of other stuff. So I'm throwing that out there. Oh, on top of the lineup this week, we got some good stuff lined up this week. Lucky Smith is on Tuesday night, talking about just the fundamentals of any spiritual growth. Lucky and I had a good time together. A lot of people might know that Lucky Smith and I are pretty decent. We're good friends. I adore that man. But Thursday night, we are having our elders back, Big Matt and Grandpa Brian, and they will be talking about more so how men and women, because I probably need to listen to some of it, can tap into the divine feminine within. It's going to be a very good program, guys. And then throughout the week, a little bits here and there. The collective Akashic Record Reading for July will be on the Patreon tomorrow. It's always that way, guys. My Patreons get it first. My Patreons, it's either a $5 tier or an $8 tier. Not trying to break anybody. So if you want the collective Akashic Record Reading early, that's where you got to go for it. Because it doesn't get released onto YouTube until about a week into the month. Also, like zodiac sign stuff for July Akashic Record Reading early on the Patreon. That's how it goes. Hello, Miss Lori. Sip, sip. Oh, I wish I had a donut. Oh, I've been working in the yard all morning. My sugar's probably very low. A donut and coffee sounds so good right now, my darling. We will. Also, my moon manifesting class. So it's only in July now. July, you got Moon Manifesting 101 and 102, and that's it. And then it's going up on Udemy, which is a platform that, you can buy classes and it's videos and all that jazz. I'm going to tell you guys, you're going to be paying a whole lot more on Udemy to do it because Udemy takes a lot. So, once again, I think it's Moon Magic 101 is about $33 and 102 is about $33. Not too shabby. And you get, I think the PDF now is about somewhere between 25 to 27 pages because I've added stuff. Of course, separated for each class, the first 101 and then the 102. But if you take both and get the whole full scope of how to, I guess is this it? I'm trying to grab a card for today. As I do this spiel, I was running a bit late. And it's just pulling out. I see. The thing is I have to see if these cards are for me or for. I'll do my thing in just a minute. Let me get through the spiel. So Patreon, Akashic Record Readings, the lineup for this week. I will not be here next Sunday. Hopefully I'm barbecuing and relaxing and not doing nothing. Plus, like I was saying, the firecrackers around here are, it's a lot. Moon manifesting course, and today is your last chance to do shadow work part 1. If you don't do part 1, how do you do part 2 or 3 and 4? Yeah, so you can go and book for that now. It's a Zoom meeting tonight between 7 p.m. and 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are talking about self-identity tonight and a bunch of other great stuff. Breathing techniques and talking about fears and a whole bunch of good jazzy stuff. And I think and if you want, just woke up, Lori. Well, good morning, beautiful. Oh, you must have slept in a bit. That's wonderful. I actually slept in a bit too. That's why I was running late. We all need that, I think. And yes. For anyone who wants to stay in the know of what's going on with Stars of the Morning Light, because I am always busy, always doing stuff, always beneficial for others, service, get on the email list. If you want your email attached there, either let me know in the comments or go to Stars of the Morning Light. All the stuff is below to submit your email. Also, if you are just in a generous mood, you can donate to various places below with PayPal or Buy Me a Coffee. Generosity, I do accept. So thank you. Oh, just a nap. You're up at 5 a.m. Yeah, that's usually how I roll too, Lori. Lori just said that she just woke up from a nap. She's up at like 5 a.m. Yeah. That was my norm, and it's still kind of my norm, but you guys want to know something about Courtney? So if I feel like I don't know, like I want to be rebellious, I guess, rebellious, or I just want Courtney time, really decompress. I kind of stay up late, just not even really paying attention to what's going on the TV or whatever, but I just stay up late. That's kind of like if there's been a lot or if I've been working a lot, I am that type that I just zone out in front of a television, maybe fall asleep on the couch. I've been that way since a kid with Nick at Night. Like it's Nick at Night was my thing growing up, the old reruns of black and white. So I've actually done that. I did that last night. A lot kind of was coming to the head of like, oh, there's a lot going on in my mind, a lot going on. But I feel better today. Today's message, the greatness of returning. Remember, the last 2 messages on Sunday were about, came from the records, and they said break it up, which thank God they said that. And the first was Remy, spiritual. Us worms, we can see that we are the entire vineyard, and we can see how we are all connected. And we're all one. There is no separation. There literally is no separation. Yeah, my mind is in a lot of places, guys. And then the next one was Spock, which, I did as best as I could with that one. Let me tell you. That was all mental. Well, spirit, mental. What do we think today we're talking about? Body, and some other mixture of stuff. They gave me James Earl Jones, who Darth Vader. I think I accidentally said Samuel last time. Samuel Jones. That's not James Earl Jones. The voice of Darth Vader. the voice of Mufasa. Mufasa. Love Mufasa. And it was interesting. So when I started going, okay, I know this is supposed to represent the body, because I knew the theme at least. What does James Earl Jones have to do with anything with the body, right? So I did my thing, and I kind of was just like looking at interviews, read his bio, that sort of stuff. Well, I came across a lovely interview that must have been like late. Yeah, he played great character. I love that man. But what he, for most of us, is represented by his voice. I mean, when we hear that voice of Darth Vader, or when we hear Mufasa, I mean, we fall right in line. We know exactly we gotta listen, right? So that's the interesting part here, folks. I watched a lovely interview with him, and maybe I'll post it below. I must have forgotten today. And the interview had to been maybe the late 90s, probably post Mufasa, right? This lovely man, at the beginning of the interview, started talking about his entire life. He suffered from a severe stuttering voice. And how he understood that was because as a baby, birth to about 5 or 6 years old, he grew up on a farm in Louisiana. I mean, running around barefoot, maybe a diaper on, hands in the dirt constantly, just with nature. That's all he knew as a baby. And he was fine. He was beautiful. He was wonderful. When he was about 5 or 6, his grandparents that raised him, they needed to move to Michigan. And he described it. I might cry today just so everybody knows. Yeah, Courtney's again a bit emotional today. Just there's a lot going on. And there's something I will bring up for next week too that we need to just be aware of. But continuing on with the story, he said, looking back as an adult, he did not know at the time as that young child that being, as he described, ripped away from the land and put on a train for a very long drive to Michigan, from Louisiana to Michigan, to completely different kind of land, completely different kind of climate, where you can't just run around barefoot with maybe a diaper on because it's freezing and the land actually disappears in a way because of snow for a long time. He realized as an adult that that was so traumatic for him that when he was a little one, on that train ride, he developed and decided he was not going to really talk. Being ripped from the land took away his voice. And so I'm listening to this story, right? And from there on, he lived mostly in Michigan. I mean, he had developed more of his, developmental years there, and he talked, but he had a severe stutter, and he didn't really talk as much as, a normal teenager. He was very quiet. And while in high school, he had an English teacher who, of course, was like, hey, we got to write poetry. We all have to kind of do that in English at some point. And supposedly his poems were amazing. He loved the art of writing. He loved it. Because he also, I'll tell more of the story as well. And that English teacher wanted to cheer him on and say, this is amazing, this is great work. And he appreciated that, but that teacher said, but I'm not going to give you a grade unless you read it to the class, which was bold of that teacher. That would never happen in today's world, I'll tell you that. That was bold. And James, because it was his writing, because you're not going to even get a grade for this amazing poem unless you do this, stood in front of the class, as we used to have to, and started reading. At the beginning, there was a bit of a stutter, but he got into the zone because it was his own work, his own art, and he ended up being able to deliver it without stuttering. And the class dumbfounded, because the poem was excellent, and also he does talk. From that teacher was able to encourage him with his writing, with going into the arts, going into acting, going into use this voice, use your skills, use this crutch that you always thought was there and would never go away. It's the most beautiful story. Most beautiful story. And now we all know, we know him from his voice for the most part. Yes, great acting. I adore that man. I mean, come on, Field of Dreams, everything, you know. Very beautiful. But his voice, how he used it, elegantly, kindly, smoothly, when the majority of his life prior to that, stuttering, not using it at all. All because he said the detachment from the land traumatized him that much. So that's a whole lot of what we're going to talk about today. Let's pick a card together. Let's pick a card together, because I didn't even get to that. I've been kind of shuffling them. They know we're here. We know that they know what we're talking about. So give me just a second. Let's pick a card together, guys. Oh. Why not? We picked it together. Maybe it's because I love you all. But this is also romantic love. I think, yeah, sure, let's go with it. It says romantic love. I think you guys, maybe the ones that are here, I use my Fridays as my romance days. Not saying I don't love all the other times. I do. I love always. But Friday is my day to just love every inch of every creation available. And it's interesting that for me, and it's definitely also, I mean, be out there in nature. I mean, my Fridays are mostly nature. To just love, love, love. And it's interesting that we just came from him talking about the detachment of nature caused such an issue. And then this card came up. It is number 39, romantic love. The frequency of romantic love supports our journey to feel whole and complete through the experience with and reflection of the conscious lover. I'm going to say it again. So you guys know, romance really, the word, it just means in high regard of love. It's just putting it like at a higher level. There is no, it doesn't have to be a lover all the time to be in romance. That's what I'm saying. Like Friday is my romance day. I'm in romance with everything I see. I chose it that way to be very conscious. A lot of people can do that every day. Well, actually, I don't think a lot of people can do that every day. Honestly, Let's be real. So I make a very conscious decision that Friday is the day that I practice nonstop being in romance with all people, places, living things. The frequency of romantic love supports our journey to feel whole and complete through the experience with and reflection of a conscious lover. So when I'm working in romance on my Fridays, I love how they said reflection of, because every time I say, "Oh, I'm so in love with you. You are so romantic to me." I could be talking to a plant. I could be talking to my dog. I could be talking to whatever, because it's just a grander scale of love. Um, it is a reflection of myself. You see, it is a reflection of self. So I make a conscious effort to do that. Also, going back to James Earl Jones' story, he loved the land. He loved the land implicitly. He was in romance with the land. He really was. He thanked his grandparents for really reading the newspaper every night after dinner. That's an old custom that I think is gone in a lot of ways. He loved them for teaching him how to live off the land, how to build a strong work ethic with that, how to respect the land, how to care for the land. Because they did the same in Michigan as they did in Louisiana. That even though when he was in his 20s and trying to get into acting, he had to go to New York. New York was very jarring for him because of that. And he just kept persevering, just focus. This is what I got to do. Just focus. And it was an interesting time. He was there, in the early mid 60s in New York. So it was a very interesting time for him to be there. And he just stayed focused on his pursuit of acting. But later in life, after he did, was pretty successful for definitely that field, he bought a farm. He lived on the land again. And he talks about this love of the land so deeply. Just reverence and love for the land. And that's really the message for today. Today's message, so everyone knows as well, because we all will understand this message. I think it just does need to be stated. Today's also a lot of Q&A if need be. I don't want way out there Q&A, like what's the this, what's the that, but anything that's kind of on your heart today can also be Q&A. Oftentimes, things that happen within our bodies, a stutter, which ends up being our greatest asset, or, okay, I'm going to use my example. For me, I'm just going to talk about me for a minute. Because of how I grew up, very chaotic household and whatnot, no one thought I could read for a very long time. I mean, if they tested me in 5th grade, I might have been reading at like a 2nd grade level. So they thought. And so I thought as well. I kind of just, even though I knew I was reading books, even though the public library knew me by heart and let me go into the adult section because they knew I cared about books, they knew I respected it. Even though I knew I was reading, I had no way to prove it. I had no way to prove it because I could not read out loud. at all. And the more that the school would think that I couldn't do it, the more I told myself I couldn't do it. The more I submitted to the fact that I was going to be basically illiterate, which I had an uncle who was illiterate. And I still struggle today to try to read out loud because I have an issue back here. Back here is actually back here, the left part. Okay. That it's really, I'm taking in when I read, I'm taking it in vastly different. So then for me to kind of spit it back out, it gets jumbled. It gets jumbled because I'm reading differently. And you say read between the lines. Yeah, Courtney's reading between lines and then reading between those lines and reading between more lines. That's how Courtney's always read. But, oh, cool, Laura. Oh, gotcha. Yeah. But because of the chaos, because of I was diagnosed with shell shock and all sorts of stuff, and diagnosed with all these different really intense reading, mostly disabilities. As a child, I just submitted to that. And also, they have you reading like ridiculous stuff in grade school, anyways, like not interesting at all. If you are dealing with like hardcore adult stuff at the age of 6 and 7, I remember they wanted me to read a story about some kid who lost his lucky sock, and he's going to be late to school because he's trying to find his lucky sock. And I just kept turning to my mom going, this is stupid. This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever read. I don't need to read this. Like I'm way past some idiot kid that lost his lucky sock. Find another sock and go to school, kid. I was that kind of child. I was a very well, you would say precocious, but really attitude. Like that was my one of my nicknames as a child was Bubba, because it was as if I would just stand there kind of like a bodyguard or a guy outside, the guys at the security outside of a club or something. That's how I kind of greeted people, talked to people, and did things as a kid. Your 9-year-old agrees with your awesome. Oh, thanks, Jules. Yeah, because they have you read like ridiculous stuff if you're already way above that. But come to find out, the thing that I struggled with the most, the thing that I was most insecure about, because all the kids at school knew, because I would have to get pulled out to go to some reading specialist. Everyone knew. I knew it caused arguments at home, all sorts of stuff. This was a very big insecurity within me. But just like James Earl Jones, who had a massive stutter and didn't even speak for the most part, he turned it around. And that actually became his greatest asset. His greatest asset. That physical thing that somehow doesn't seem to work, that we detached ourselves from the ability of. Same with my reading. I actually have a writing degree. And in getting a writing degree, let me tell you, you're doing a whole lot of reading of other writers. Great readers make great writers. That's a quote from Nabokov. Great readers make great writers. So yeah. But for the majority of, I'm going to say all of my younger years, nobody even thought I could do it. And then all of a sudden, bam. No, I'm going to get a whole bachelor's degree in this. Yes. Yes, Jules, that's what we're going to go back to talking about. So for James Earl Jones, it was the detachment from the land. For me, it was the chaos of the house. But, whatever it may be, I do want to say we're going to go back to attaching to the land. And I think that's why that Roadman's card came up. What I really wanted to focus on, though, is that aspect. We all have something, guys. We all have something. And Jules, I appreciate that your young one is, well, not young. You're big and mighty at 9, yes, is listening. Because we all do. We have something that even maybe in adulthood causes insecurity within us, causes we don't want to reveal this to others. Somehow tells our mind, oh, we won't be able to achieve that goal because we got X, Y, and Z wrong with us. None of that's true. None of that is at all true. Within us, the romance within and the romance around tells us in this card the frequency of it. The journey to feel whole and complete through the experience and reflection of love, of grand love. We are actually whole. And we're living right now in a very curious time period that it's as if, how do I want to state this? It's as if we want to accept the limitations. And there actually is no limitations. Not within ourselves and not around us. But we first got to step through these limiting beliefs about us. And it really can, in my opinion, it tends to start with the body, because our body is our foundation. Our body is that great, wonderful tool that we can use to achieve all these other wonderful mental and spiritual heightened consciousness experiences. It does take our body. And usually within that, there is some kind of thing that the world had always said was, not usable. But I don't want to put even more negative connotation about it, but it's, they'll say that, no, that's not, you can't use that part. Or there's something wrong there. Do I believe we learn how to compensate? Yeah, I do believe we learn how to compensate. But we are perfect and we are whole. We have to work past the limiting preconceptions we have because school, bosses, family start telling us that we have all these limitations. And then we start telling ourselves, oh, I have all these limitations. I had very much given up at a young age of I'm never going to read. So now I got to figure out, okay, if you can't read, what job are you going to have in life? I mean, that's how it got. So it's just limiting belief systems, definitely attached to our bodies. And I'm not saying if you are a little one that should not be lifting like 60 pounds, don't lift 60 pounds. That's an actual limitation. That is a acceptable limitation. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about those things that hold back our full potential. If you can't lift something, get somebody else to lift something. We're talking about that stuff that can hold back living our full potential. Like James Earl Jones' voice. Mufasa. Mufasa would have not have been Mufasa. Darth Vader would have not have been Darth Vader if it wasn't for his voice. I wouldn't be able to do this lovely reading Toth to people and what I do if I had stayed in my limitations of you can't read, Courtney. It's all aspects of that. How do we then break some of these limitations? That's the part of reconnecting with nature again. For me, it will always go back to that. That is a fundamental that everyone needs to understand. You can read as much as you want. You can watch as many YouTubes as you want. Honestly, you can meditate as much as you want until there is a consistent connection with the land. We will not be able to reprogram the limiting beliefs that we put on ourselves. It's not really possible. Yeah, it's not possible, guys. The reason why the reason why is because nature teaches us that we are whole and perfect, even in our complexities, even in our bruises and bumps and what appears to be our, you know, abnormalities. Nature will teach us that. I'm just reading some of. Yes, so everybody's agreeing with me with nature. That's excellent. Jules said, romance with yourself, not narcissistic, but compassion and love for self. Yeah, and then she said, self-care first. I always feel a pull or calling from nature as part of that. Yes. And Lori just said that's why she won't live in the city. I get that, sweetheart. That's how I came down from Chicago. Now I'm in Georgia. That's exactly because I knew I would not be able to live my full potential, live this beautiful stars of the morning light that I'm doing here. Um, if I wasn't able to at least be around some nature. Because, Chicago is really the city of concrete. And my dad was a concrete laborer. I mean, I grew up around a lot of concrete, guys. So, and Jules, let's talk about that for a minute. You didn't really pose a question, but yeah, romance with yourself, which is how I start every day, really. I had to learn that in a heartbeat. Not narcissistic, but compassion and love for self. Yes, 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 yes. I feel, this is my personal opinion, that term narcissism and narcissistic, that in the past, like maybe 3 years or so, 3, 4 years, has blown up way out of proportion. That is actually there is a clinical definition to what that is. What I believe happened there, okay, is kind of twofold. It came out of the look at me generation, the whole selfie thing, right? But it also, unfortunately, there is an aspect to, I do believe more people are ADD or ADHD, and I love all people. This is not a criticism towards them. But what there is a thing with them is it's called the zone. They have now labeled it called in the zone or the zone. And what happens is because they can hyper focus on something. Oh, yeah. I mean, if they're in the zone, they are the most amazing artists, engineers, developers. I mean, if they are in the zone and they are focused on that, I'm telling you, it's amazing to see. But on the same flip side of the coin with that is, let's say they're focused on something that they think they need, that they like, I need to do this. This is like, I have to go to the store. I have to go to the store. I have to, or, you're hurting me this way. That also can end up being in a zone. And so they're unable to let go of it and see the scope because they're in that zone. It's in their need. It's in that. So I think a combination of selfie generation, look at me, and I really am trying to look perfect, and a mixture of there is more diagnosis of ADD, ADHD out in our communities. I think with that combination, the overblown use of the term narcissist developed. became a thing. And I don't really appreciate it because they're not. Most of the people that are that others are referring to narcissists, they're not. They might be like my poor husband. He is severely ADHD, and when he's in the zone, I'm telling you guys, his art is amazing. The stuff he's making in the garage, it's like, what did you just make? It's amazing. But at the same time, if it's something that he feels his body needs or he needs, he can't let it go. Now, could I see that as, whoa, I'm busy, I'm over here? You know, he's worked on it because he's consciously aware of it. And I had to become consciously aware of, oh, that's actually a thing. But to the outside world, I have witnessed numerous times that kind of situation happen when it's really just somebody's in the zone and they can't let go. And the other person saying, oh, you're so narcissist. You're such a narcissist. You're only thinking about yourself. You're only thinking about yourself. It's because they're in the zone. That's what's going on. So they're not truly the definition. There's a whole nother thing I believe going on there. And so I'm happy you said that, Jules, because yes, I really hope that term goes back into its proper place, because it's also, it hurts someone's feelings when they're actually not a narcissist and we start calling them that. It really does. Unfortunately, early in my marriage, because I didn't know what was going on, I would say stuff like that to my husband. It hurt him terribly because he didn't really understand what was going on. The term the zone just came out, guys, maybe 5 years ago, of them really understanding this. And it hurt him that I'd say that, because he's thinking, for him, no, I'm focused on you and the household and this. He didn't understand, and it would hurt so bad. So many times I believe we are actually, when we use that, we're actually hurting a lot of people, because it's not the truth. It's not what really is going on. So that's Courtney's thoughts. It actually, I think I went into full detail about that because it's something that it's close to home for me, because I live with it and I also see it. I see how that can get misdirected, misrepresented, and that's I just don't think that's the case. I don't think it's narcissism. Now, is narcissism real? Oh yeah, and that is very, very identifiable. Very identifiable. Extreme. And there's no such thing that the amount of overuse of that term right now, there's no such way that can actually be what's really happening. I mean, I personally don't believe that. So, yeah. Oh, you're the scapegoat. Okay, Jules. Jules said, so Jules, you have ADHD, and you said that really, you have to make an effort. Yes, to not appear selfish or be like a narcissist, because Jules, it is that zone, baby. And it's hard, especially if you're in a relationship. Because also we have learned over the years that it is pretty well known that in this 3D plane, opposites attract, right? So somebody with like ADHD is going to attract somebody who's very organized, very type A, let's say. Um, and because it's in the 3D world, opposites attract. I will say our higher consciousness, if you're able to continue to get past the 3D arguments, fights, have compassion for yourself and others, um, when the core of people, your values, your heart, your base, if those line up, if those really line up, but in the 3D, you're walking around life, you're completely opposites, that's perfectly fine, because it's the core that continues on. But unfortunately, we have to spend time learning about the other person, learning about what they have going on and learning about certain stuff that, can. And I will also say, Jules, I do want to say too, most families, most people are extremely codependent. And codependency is riddled with so many characteristics that will also look narcissistic. So I do think we're using that term so lightly, and I just really, because remember, words are manifesting all the time, and the more we use terms like that, we're going to be ushering in true narcissistic. Yeah, I can talk all day about codependency, man. I am a recovering codependent, and I still have my moments. I'm a work in progress. I'm not what I was. Let me tell you. Oh yes, very cautious with labels. I was told to never label really anything. We're all gray. Anyways, that was a very long tangent. So I love all people. I do. I love all people. I love our complexity. I love our intrigue. I love, man, even the parts that physically are not completely sound and complete, so we think, with these limited beliefs. To kind of drive it home again, guys, it is always going to be nature first. Always. And for me, every single thing I do, I know the way that I can help Gaia is that I can help others heal and get their vibes up because I know how attached we are, and in return, it helps her. That is my calling, and a few very tidbits to it. But it really is all about her, the land. And it also is all about us learning how to truly love all aspects of our selves, of maybe our what we think is limitations, by being present with her, by seeing how she operates. I mean, guys, it's very clear that we can see something in nature that looks hideous, looks terrifying, looks very dramatic, and, just not okay. This is not okay. I gotta run and hide, when in actuality, that is one of the biggest caretakers. That is one of the biggest replenishers of the soil. Whatever it may be, it might be protecting all of us from very big harm. But it looks deformed. It looks very not okay. She's showing us. She's showing us. She also shows us how once you connect, you can release all these things that are limited beliefs, because she's not limited. She's not limited in any way. We've made limitations on her. But when we go past the scope of what we did, she's not limited at all. And we are exactly like her. We are connected to her. We are made of her, with her, be her. We are with her always. And this is not like biblical stuff of like, oh, we're made of mud, or, no. I'm literally saying we are vastly attached to Gaia. And everybody wants to talk about, all the battles above and below, which are very true. It is actually all about her. And because we are that middle, because we are vastly connected, they have to use us to get to her. But we can use her to get to our full potential, to really live out our full potential in whatever way that looks. This really was just me kind of hopping on and saying, please connect with the land. Please, please, please. whatever way that looks, at least once a week, at least. Mine is a definite Friday. I mean, I'm out there telling her that I am in love, romantic love with you, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful earth, to replenish me, to break me of any of my weird limitations or the weird thoughts that might happen through my week. It is not welcomed. And the only way we can really start identifying how we are perfect and complete, even with our, no matter how we look, no matter what's going on, no matter any of these, what appears to be deficiency, the lack. I can't stand that. It's all 3D, deficiency and lack. You can read that in the Nagamati. She will teach us that there is no such thing. Within and around, above and below, there is no deficiency at all. So, I love you all so much. Okay. Oh, I see, Miss Lori. Okay, yeah. However, we were somehow disconnected. And see, the disconnect actually happens in many various ways. And that's how we reconnect. That's how I entitled this The Greatest Return. Return to self, return to higher self, return to higher consciousness, return to our body, return to our heart center. It takes returning to the land, period. The natives here knew it. And I love the fact that pretty much everyone across the globe right now are beginning to look at our natives. Because, Europe is doing it. I know even the Indians in India, all of them, they are now starting to go, wow, your natives had a whole lot of interesting, yeah, everybody's looking at our natives because our natives understood the love, the reverence, the power of the land. More so than many other cultures. And thank God that everybody's jumping on board. And that's what this message really was about, because disconnect can happen in a whole various amount of ways. And then it becomes limited beliefs. Then it becomes shadow work that we need to do. And there is no shadow in beautiful Gaia. She's perfect in all ways. Even the stuff that looks scary is perfect. Just like us. Yes. Oh, I get that, Jules. Yeah, I get that. It's still, you can, I grew up in like urban, but I would say when I'm young and busy and you got kids, you're busy, I would still at least about every 2 weeks try to get out to a forest preserve or a trail of some kind. That was how I had to do it when I was young, busy, and definitely living in urban. I still made an effort. Also, there are ways. Even if there's a local park to bring your kids to, don't sit on the bench, sit on the ground. You know what I mean? You might look weird, but whatever. To other people, who cares about that? They'll actually, the more we do stuff like that, the more another mom's gonna walk over and be like, "Hey, can I sit with you? Is the ground soft? Is it dry?" And you go, "Oh yeah, it's beautiful." That mom's gonna do it, and then there's gonna be a whole circle of moms sitting on the ground, which is what we were supposed to do originally. Anyways, we're all supposed to be doing that. Anyways, yeah. Oh, well, I love you, ladies. Thank you for stopping in, and I love you. Go have a good weekend. I will not be here, like I said, next Sunday, because it's the holiday weekend, and trust me, Fireworks abound in this neighborhood. I mean, it's a whole, like, I don't have to go anywhere to see a light show. It's literally my neighborhood. Um, yeah, it's pretty wild in this neighborhood at this time. We have a lot of military in my neighborhood, and the 4th of July is a very big celebration, which is, you know what, for me, I grew up knowing the principles and knowing the foundation, and the foundation was good. The foundation of our country was good. Um, was good. So I like knowing the foundation. I like, I guess I'll leave it with that too. Guys, I mean, that story, I love watching those videos of like people from other countries watching the story, you know, the reaction videos, watching the story of like our Star Spangled Banner and stuff like that. And they just start crying. They just start crying. I love it. And then they go, wow, that's why America is what America is. I do want to remind us that it is, especially for many of us who have been here for a long time, it is in our DNA to stand up for what's right. It is in our DNA. It's in our DNA so much that we knew at the time that at the Star Spangled Banner, I'm sure everybody knows the story because if you grew up here, that we knew what that flag represented, and we knew we didn't want to be in bondage. And so men routinely, if one was killed, another one stood right back up. So that flag would always be shown. That is who we are. That is who we are. We stand for freedom. We stand for breaking bondage. That is what is in our DNA. And that's why the rest of the world goes, wow, look at America. Because that is in our DNA. We are a crapshoot mixed bag of all sorts that have been mixing for a very long time. So that part in our DNA, it's in really a lot of, I don't care if you came here from the beginning, middle, hey, you just got here a little while ago, somewhere in you, that's in there. And so that's why the world looks at us so much, because that is very much in us. Yeah. So I love you guys. I love you. I actually, maybe at some point, maybe this week, I'll talk about more history-based stuff, just in case. Just in case. I'm a big history person. I kind of have a minor in a lot of history, so maybe I'll talk about that a bit as we go further in to our holiday. So I love you guys. Get out there. Put your hands in some dirt. Put your bottom on some grass. Take your shoes off. Stay for a while. Feel the earth. She'll tell you exactly. You have no limitations. You have no bondage. You are perfect and whole, no matter what's going on. Always. I love you guys. Namaste.